the two things that will change everything you know about chiropractic care.
Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to the Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is the Nexus Podcast.
The most important piece is having a healthy brain and nervous system. The next most important thing you could do if you're looking for success, if you're looking for longevity, if you're looking for a life filled with purpose, is going to be prayer, meditation, and sleep. We know definitively that 90% of nutrition and stimulation to someone's brain comes from movement of the joints of the spine. I would add the word proper in there, and I'm not making this up on my own. There's a guy named Roger Sperry who won a Nobel Prize in the 80s for finding that the 90% of nutrition and stimulation to the brain comes from movement of the joints of the spine. So foundation is chiropractic care. So in our office, what we have something called a production pyramid. And so the production pyramid looks like this, is at the very bottom of the pyramid, the base, the foundation, is brain-based, neurologically based chiropractic care. So we have to focus on the brain. We have to get joints of the spine moving well. And it's not just joints of the spine moving well, it's the right joints of the spine to affect the correct side of the brain so that we can get lasting changes. That neurologically based care is designed to focus primarily, there are other parts of the brain too, won't get into all those, but on the frontal cortex or the prefrontal cortex. And we know that the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that's responsible for success. I could go way down a rabbit hole on like school and teaching and all that stuff. We could do that some other time. If someone doesn't address their brain and they're like, I have a great connection to God, I meditate regularly, I'm praying regularly, and I feel like I'm sleeping great, the reality is that if the brain is stuck in a fight or flight state, then those stress hormones are turning off our frontal cortex, which is responsible for our faith, responsible for our hope, and responsible for our optimism. So from that perspective, is the stress hormones weaken frontal cortex is responsible for faith, hope, optimism. So right there, the level of prayer life that you could have, the level of connection to God or source or universe or whatever you want to call it, you could have, is not going to be as strong if you have stress hormones on in your system, whether or not you know they're there. We're turning off stress hormones when we have the neurologically based chiropractic care. In the sleep front, if our body is stuck in a stressed out state, then the stress hormones by nature are designed to keep us awake and keep us alert to look for the next scary thing. It keeps us on guard, which is also why the stress hormones weaken the front part of the brain. So big picture, if we don't have a healthy brain, if we don't have joints of the spine that are moving well, that is going to negatively affect our sleep, our meditation, and our prayer. From there, Harvard did this study that says the number one key indicator that they found with people to lead to a long life that is healthier is relationships. But what's interesting in our world is that if we look at the part of the brain that is responsible for healthy relationships, that's responsible for our emotional intelligence, it's literally the frontal cortex of the brain. So again, if we have stress hormones flooding the system because we have lack of movement of the joints of the spine, that's going to negatively affect our sleep, it's going to negatively affect our prayer life, it's going to affect our faith, hope, optimism, and it's also going to decrease our emotional intelligence. Why? Because in a fight or flight state, we don't need to have a high emotional intelligence to fight a bear or run away from it. We need to have low emotional intelligence. So this is this genius design that God made our bodies with to keep us safe and protected in fight or flight state. And remember, movement of the joints of the spine or lack of movement of the joints of the spine will release stress hormones into our system that weaken the front part of the brain. So if we have a weaker nervous system, if we have a weaker brain, we will have poorer sleep, meditation, prayer, and we will also have a poorer quality of relationships. And I see it all the time in the context of our office where like a dad will start coming in. So like say mom and the kids have been coming for a while, dad finally decides to come in. And I've had 2 cases of this that are really cool. And a month in, dad starts taking the kids to school just on his own. And mom's like, I have no idea why like he decided to do this. It's because we've decreased that amount of stress in the system. And so the connection with the kids and the family starts to increase. And we see stuff like this all the time. And it's, again, this is just the nature of how the brain and nervous system function and fire in the first place. So if we don't have a properly functioning nervous system, that's going to negatively affect our sleep, our meditation, our prayer. It's going to negatively affect our relationships. And then a lot of people think that they're like, well, dude, listen, like I eat clean, so I'm healthy. But the reality is that if our body is stuck in a fight or flight state, we are not and we cannot be in a rest and digest state. So key word is digest. So it doesn't matter how much healthy food someone eats. Whenever, like the ripped six-pack CrossFit athletes that we take care of, when they come in and they start PRing every exercise and they start lifting heavier and they feel like their recovery is better, the reality is like their body wasn't fully digesting the nutrients that were put in it well if their body's stuck in a fight or flight state. So nutrition alone cannot fix a brain problem or a nervous system problem. And then the next layer on top of that is going to be what most people go to as well, which is like, well, I work out every day, so I must be moving. But what we know through all the research is that if you sit for more than 6 hours in a day, then you completely negate 1 hour of working out that you would do. So a lot of us, I think most of us, probably have high level of stress sitting at a desk all day. We work out an hour a day. We think the joints of our spine are moving well, but the reality is that we're completely negating that 1 hour of working out by sitting for the rest of the day. And so exercise is great, but you got to remember that exercise, one, puts a stress on the system. Two, exercise also breaks down muscle tissue. It breaks down our connective tissue, like our ligaments and our tendons, because we want to build them up healthier and stronger. So if our body's already stuck in fight or flight, and we're breaking down muscle tissue and connective tissue to build up new stress hormones, and we're breaking down our bodies when we're going to work out, our recovery is not as good. And so even working out in and of itself is a stress on the system. It's a breakdown process. So people who are like, dude, I have my nutrition's on point, my exercise is on point, but I still have all these issues, it's because they never went back and addressed the brain properly in the first place. And then the very tip of the pyramid, like the least important thing that people can do that most people start with, are all the hacks. So we could talk about supplements, we could talk about red light, we could talk about cold plunge, we could talk about sauna. Not saying that any of those things are wrong, not saying that any of those things are bad, but most people try to hack their way out of a neurological issue. And you can never do that. Like, it's literally not possible. Remember that in fight or flight, we can't be in rest and digest. So if we're taking supplements, how many clients I've seen come in and they're like, I want $1,000 of supplements a month and I have no change in my skin issues or my digestive issues. We can get them off all that stuff a lot of times. And it's not because we're amazing, but it's because the power that God gave us within our bodies to heal is so much greater than what we give it credit for, but we can't do it in a stressed out state. So when we address the brain, we will allow for better sleep, better recovery, better meditation, better prayer, better connection to God. That's going to lead to better relationships if we have the healthy front part of the brain. Having a healthy front part of the brain is going to reactivate our digestive system, so we're digesting the nutrients that we're eating properly. It's going to allow us to recover better after our workouts. And then all the hack stuff that people do, the supplements, the red light, it just takes it all to another level. But if we miss that foundation, if we miss the brain, then we miss the whole thing in the first place. And it's like people who are operating at 90% thinking that they're at 100 and they have no idea that there's more. So that's our production pyramid. And then on the other side, this is the conversation I love to talk about, is that we have 4 Ps inside of our office. So where most offices are talking about pain, where most offices are talking about headaches and TMJ and stuff like that, we have very few pain conversations. Our conversations look more like this. We talk about the 4 Ps: posture, presence, productivity, and profit. And so what we know is that a healthy frontal cortex of the brain is what is responsible for a healthy, strong posture. So if our front part of our brain is weaker, our posture will be weaker or poorer. And so from there, when we start adjusting someone, we're literally affecting the part of the brain that's responsible for healthy posture. So if you're ever in a business meeting or you're ever out around town, my wife and I had this conversation the other day. She was watching the high school kids come down the hill, and she's like, every kid, poor posture. And that's because most of them, from the time they were 1 year old, were put on an iPad, so they're put in this poor posture state, which is an indicator of how their brain is functioning. Remember, that front part of the brain that's responsible for our posture is responsible for our decision making. It's responsible for our relationships, for our connection to God, for our healing, etc. So if we have a weak front part of the brain, we have weak posture. From there, we get into this conversation of presence. So if we wake up the front part of the brain, someone has good posture, by nature, they're going to have better presence. That presence is going to allow people to be more connected to the people around them, to get more done, which leads to productivity. And then the last piece of this is profit. So yes, we talk about we can help entrepreneurs make more money. That's great. We've seen a lot of people do things that they thought were scary and make way more money doing it. But actually what we care about inside of our office is profiting from life experiences. So people being able to do the things they love, to be able to play with their kids again or their grandkids again, or do the things that they want to love and do for a lifetime. And so the 4 Ps plus a production pyramid is how we operate in our office, and I think that's really what sets us apart. Anybody who has a pain problem, the pain is actually not the problem. The problem is the brain that sends the signals for someone to have pain. So we're not adjusting someone to fix their pain problems. We're adjusting someone to correct their brain problems. So when someone sits down with us and they say, well, I just want my back to feel better. So there's a couple things that I ask them. And the first thing is well, if you just want your back to feel better, you just wanted your neck or your shoulder, or your knee to feel better, you could go to your primary care physician. They will probably give you some sort of medication that will get your pain to go away. It's going to come back every day. You're going to have to continue to take the medication. But if that's all you're looking for is getting out of pain, then you don't need to come to my office every day to do that. You can go buy a bottle of Tylenol or Advil at Costco that will last you 90 days. And it will get you out of pain, but you're going to have to take it all day long. It's going to wreck your liver. It's going to wreck other stuff. So we're not looking to get people out of pain. We're looking at getting people back to their life. And what really it comes down to is this idea that the pain is only a symptom of a greater cause of a dysfunction that's happening in the brain. So anybody who's just looking for, I want pain relief and I want to get out of pain, they're not a good fit for office. That's why I tell people in the beginning, hey, I'm not the fixer. I'm not going to heal you. Your body only knows how to heal itself. And some people don't care about their body healing itself. They just want to feel better. And if they want to feel better, they can do it with way less cost involved in terms of coming to my office multiple times a week, in terms of what it costs to see us in the first place, but they're never going to address the cause. They're just going to chase after addressing a symptom. And what's interesting about that is when we get into a medication conversation, which is outside of my scope to prescribe or tell anyone to get off their medication, anything like that. But a lot of times, if we stunt or we turn off our pain signal, our brain is going to respond with an equal and opposite reaction to turn up the pain signal more so that you pay attention to it. Because pain is there to get us to stop doing something. So if the sole purpose is I don't want to stop doing what I was doing and I'm just trying to mask the pain or mask the symptoms, my stuff's only going to get worse unless I actually address the cause. And it's such an interesting paradox. So some people just aren't a great fit, and that's okay. And that's why I sit with them and I say, hey, we're not going to fix you. My job's not to fix you. Your body only knows how to heal itself, but it can only do that in a rest and digest state. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody. It's just dependent on what you're looking for. Like there's no good. It's just, what are you looking for? There's no bad. It's just, what are you looking for? And if someone's just looking for a quick fix, probably not the right fit. If someone's looking for a lasting change and a sense of purpose and a new connection to God and a new connection to things that they probably didn't even expect were possible, then a little bit different version of care is probably going to be more in line with what they're looking for.